Two candidates vying for the Republican nomination trading attacks over foreign policy following last week's debate. 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy called to clarify his controversial foreign policy remarks after his rival Nikki Haley blasted him for not backing U.S. allies. And the attacks appeared to be escalating after the entrepreneur referenced Haley's given Indian name on his campaign website. Here to respond to all of that is presidential candidate Nikki Haley. Ambassador, thank you so much for being here and welcome to you. First off, what is your reaction to that Twitter post, Keep Lying, referencing your name, saying that desperation is growing?
I mean, I'm not going to get involved in these childish name games. It's pretty pathetic. First of all, I was born with Nikki on my birth certificate. I was raised as Nikki. I married a Haley, and so that is what my name is. So he can say or misspell or do whatever he wants, but he can't step away from the fact that, look, he's the one that said he was going to abandon Israel. Those were his words. Now he's wanting to walk it back. And the reality is you have to understand the importance of our allies and those relationships. We can never be so narcissistic to think that we don't need friends. It's not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel, too. But Israel faces genocidal threats from Hamas, from Hezbollah, from Iran, from Syria. You need a president that understands that understands that Israel is the front line of defense when it comes to us dealing with Islamic terrorism in Iran, and he just doesn't get it. So, look, I mean, I think you can tell a lot about the kind of leader someone will be based on how they run their campaign, and he's doing that all on his own.
So Hillary Vaughn invoked your name and said that, quoted you by saying that this idea of biological males playing in female sports is the women's issue of our time. There was a state senator in Nebraska who chided Riley Gaines for speaking out about having to compete against a biological male, Leah Thomas, saying, when we grow up, we realize that it's not all about trophies, and we don't let it sort of become the raison d'etre for our life. And I remarked at the time that I don't remember this Nebraska state senator ever being a Division I NCAA athlete. So I'm not quite sure what foundation she comes from in criticizing Riley Gaines. But we see that this is becoming a bigger issue, and we're wondering how big of an issue is this going to play in the presidential election?
I mean, the first thing I'll say is the Biden administration is wrong to say this is a complicated issue. It is not complicated, and we're not going to have to make our daughters get used to the fact that biological boys are in their locker rooms. We're not going to have our daughters work their entire life to excel at a sport and have a biological boy say, oh, I can do this, and jump into it and change their entire careers. We're not going to make our daughters go through that. It's not complicated. It's actually pretty simple. Biological boys play in boys' sports. Biological girls play in girls' sports. If there is someone who has a challenge and is not sure what they are, they can pick a separate category for them. But we are not going to have biological boys in our girls' locker rooms, and our girls should not have to expect that they're going to compete against biological boys. It's an unfair scenario, and there's no situation that's ever going to say it's complicated. It's just flat out wrong.
Seeing that exchange at the White House just now with our reporter, Ambassador Haley, makes you wonder, I mean, just how powerful of an issue do you believe this will become in a 2024 general election matchup? I mean, could where the president stands on this sway votes?
Absolutely. I have said from the very beginning, strong girls become strong women. Strong women become strong leaders. We are not going to make our girls feel inferior by putting biological boys in their sports as well. They have earned the right to be able to compete at the levels that they compete. They've earned the right to have a fair playing field. These women work really hard to get to the points that they are. We're not going to have it thrown all away because you're worried about hurting the feelings of a biological boy that wants to play in sports, but he thinks he's a girl. We're not going to have that. That's unacceptable.
I wanted to ask you a question because this is a matter of some controversy, particularly in recent days, with the response coming to something that you've said. You talk about Joe Biden's age and saying that voting for Joe Biden is basically ensuring that Kamala Harris becomes president. The Atlantic's Jamel Hill said that was a statement that was founded in racism. She said, quote, "So part of the reason racism is such a terrible sickness in this country is because politicians like this know they can rally a certain base with the fear of, oh, my God, a black woman might be president if you don't vote for me. Then we want to act all surprised when the most hateful part of the base decides they need to act out of their feelings of hatred." What do you say to her, this idea that you saying Kamala Harris could become president, we should all be fearful of that, I think is paraphrasing what you said, is racist?
I mean, she's saying that to a minority female that's running for president. This has nothing to do with Kamala's gender or Kamala's race. This has everything to do with Kamala's incompetence. That's what this is about. Every American knows that if Kamala Harris becomes president, we are in serious trouble of losing our country. Everything she's ever been given, she has failed at. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. Show us what she's done on the border. Show us what she's done with artificial intelligence. Show us what she's done to improve this administration's standings on freedom or the economy or inflation or the border or national security. There's just not anything there. They can say that's racist all they want, but the reality is it goes back to what Joe Biden's strategist said last week, and y'all reported it in the press. They said the one person we don't want to run against in a general election is Nikki Haley. They know that they can't call me racist. They know they can't call out anything I do because I'm their worst nightmare. And look, we're going to call it like we see it. A vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris. And the thought of a President Kamala Harris should send a chill up every American spine. And I refuse to let that happen. And that's why we're focused on winning. We've had a great response since the debate. We have had just great support going to NikkiHaley.com. And we've got a country to save, and I'm determined to do it.
Well, the attacks on you have certainly ramped up. That might be a sign that you did something right at that debate. They're trying to take you down from the climb that you've seen in the last few days, $1 million in the 72 hours following that debate. You have hauled in. We'll keep watching your campaign. Nikki Haley, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Governor.
Thanks. Tell them to bring
Appreciate
it. Go to NikkiHaley.com.
All right. Thanks so much to the ambassador.